Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Inside the Naval Postgraduate School. From our beautiful campus here in Monterey, California, I'm your host Alan Richmond, right here on the Pentagon Channel. Thanks for joining us. Well, in this episode, we'll talk about expanding your horizons, which encourages young women to become more involved in science, technology, engineering, and math. We'll visit with the latest two inductees into the NPS Hall of Fame, and we'll talk with Paul Stockton about Homeland Security and Defense. Paul Stockton was nominated by President Barack Obama to be the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Homeland Defense and America's Security Affairs on April 28, 2009. In this position, he is responsible for supervising the Department of Defense Homeland Defense activities, including defense critical infrastructure protection and other mission assurance efforts, defense support of civil authorities, domestic crisis management, and Western Hemisphere security matters. Assistant Secretary Stockton joined the faculty of the Naval Postgraduate School in August of 1990 as an assistant professor in the Department of National Security Affairs. From 1995 to 2000, he served as director for the Center of Civil-Military Relations, assisting over 80 nations to strengthen democratic control over their security forces and deepen security cooperation with the United States. In 2000, he founded and served as the acting dean of the School of International Graduate Studies. He was appointed Associate Provost for Institutional Development in 2001. From 2002 to 2006, Assistant Secretary Stockton established and served as the director of the Center for Homeland Defense and Security, where he helped develop curricula to strengthen U.S. all-hazards preparedness at local, state, and federal levels. Well, Mr. Stockton, thank you, first of all, very much for taking time to be with us here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. I know you have a busy schedule, so we appreciate your time. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your duties as they stand today.
Sure. My job is divided up into three halves. First, I'm responsible for Western Hemisphere policy for the Department of Defense. So from Chile and Argentina all the way up to the Arctic, where we have new challenges, new opportunities given climate change. I do that for the Secretary of Defense and the entire DoD team. The second thing that I do in my job is we conduct defense support to civil authorities. So when a disaster strikes a community and the community can't handle it on their own, the state's resources are tapped out and they need federal assistance, then the governor calls FEMA. FEMA's in the lead for the federal response effort. And then FEMA calls me. So we have the life-saving skills and capabilities in the Department of Defense that are going to be most needed in a large-scale event. I make sure that we can provide those capabilities swiftly and effectively to save lives when America needs that the most. Then the third portion of my portfolio, the third half, is the military defense of the United States, Homeland Defense. That's an activity that's very, very important. I treat it with great seriousness. For example, Operation Noble Eagle that conducts air defense for the United States. That's part of the military defense of the United States and a very important part of my responsibilities. So that's a quick overview. There's lots of cats and dogs, other things that I do as well. But those three halves comprise a diverse portfolio and one in which I'm honored to serve the Secretary of Defense.
I'm wondering, what are some of the biggest challenges you face with those 3 points that you just made?
When the earthquake struck Haiti a few years ago, we didn't respond collectively as well as we could have. The nations of the Western Hemisphere essentially had a pickup game. Instead of having a plan to fall in on, instead of understanding how we were going to support each other, nations showed up with what they had. It was a little bit uncoordinated compared to what might be possible in the future. In 2 weeks, Secretary Panetta is going down to Punta del Este in Uruguay to meet with all of the ministers of defense of the entire Western Hemisphere. That's a whole slew of folks. And help Chile get across the finish line a proposal to dramatically improve the coordination of nations in the region who can provide defense support at the request of a nation struck by a catastrophe, so that the next time, when not if, there's a devastating earthquake or some other natural catastrophe, nations of the region will be able to partner together much more effectively than they've been able to do in the past. That's the wolf closest to the sled. That's the project on which I'm working now. There are many, many others.
What about some of the success stories that you've had since being in office?
We have, none of that's thanks to me. It's thanks to all of our partners in the Joint Staff and the combatant commands and our interagency partners. Because in my portfolio, a lot of what I do is to support the Department of Homeland Security, to support FEMA, and being able to work together collaboratively with them is a wonderful opportunity. But inside the DoD community, yes, we've made some significant progress. And thanks to Congress and thanks to the governors of the nation, we now have a new provision of law in the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act that for the first time enables Title X reserves, thousands and thousands of highly trained, very, very skilled women and men in uniform who have medical capabilities, engineering capabilities. For the first time, now we have the legal authority to put them into the fight. When a governor requests assistance in a disaster, Title X reserves now can bring immense capabilities to bear when America needs them.
Well, I know you're here today at NPS to address our students, and I'm just wondering if you could share your message.
My message for them is that we need to start rethinking the severity of the catastrophes for which the nation needs to be prepared. We I think, are much better prepared now for a Hurricane Katrina scale event, but it could be worse. We could face much greater challenges. It's going to require thinking by the military, collaborative partnerships above and beyond what we've ever had in the past. There are hazards to the security of the electric power grid, for example. If the grid goes down due to an earthquake or other natural disaster, or via cyber attack on the United States, we need to do a lot to build resilience against such an attack before it occurs. And then, if the attack occurs, when it occurs, be much better positioned to save lives when municipal water systems, all the other infrastructure on which we depend, begins to suffer cascading failures from the loss of commercial electric power.
Well, obviously, you've spent quite a bit of time here in past years, and I'm just wondering, how is it coming home now? What differences do you see here at the Naval Postgraduate School?
Well, first of all, it's even more beautiful here than the Pentagon. It's great to be here, and I've had a chance to talk with many students and faculty over the last couple of days. It's so impressive how NPS is staying at the cutting edge of emerging security challenges for the United States, both in terms of having the curricula that the nation needs for its future leaders and the kind of research that you absolutely have to conduct in order to know what to teach those students. I've seen remarkable progress in a couple of different areas. First of all, National Treasure, the defense analysis curriculum here that supports the special operations and low-intensity conflict community. It's absolutely first-rate what's being done here, both research and education. Secondly, especially important for me, is the Homeland Security curriculum here, sponsored by FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security, that has students from across the nation, including many state and local students from fire, police, the other professions that are going to be on the cutting edge of saving lives. That program is thriving. It's an example of how the flexibility, the quick turn here at NPS that our faculty can make possible to meet emerging security challenges makes NPS a national treasure.
Well, of course, here at the Naval Postgraduate School, we're pleased that we can say we have world-class faculty. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. That's where it all starts. And I think that one of the reasons you can attract world-class faculty is, looking back on my experience here, the thing that I really liked about teaching at NPS was the quality of the students. They're so smart, and they have real-world experience. Many of them have already been on tours where they come to the classroom with a perspective on the challenges that our nation faces that's unlike anything that you will get in a civilian university.
And of course, our students at NPS are the best and the brightest.
When I was a fresh-caught junior faculty member here, there was a new student who just arrived named Bill McRaven. He's now the commander of Solic. So we have a terrific team here, a student-faculty team in a wonderful part of the United States. And again, the thing that impresses me most after having been away for many, many years is not the NPS that used to exist, but the NPS that exists today, being on the leading edge of emerging security challenges where the nation most needs us.
Well, again, thank you very much for taking time to appear with us here on the Pentagon Channel on Inside NPS. It's always good to see you.
Thanks. I'd welcome a chance to come back.
Well, again, special thanks to Paul Stockton for visiting with us here at the Naval Postgraduate School. Well, stay with us. More to come right here on Inside NPS on the Pentagon Channel. Welcome back to the show. Well, coming up next, we'll look at expanding your horizons and the efforts to encourage young women to become more involved in science, technology, engineering, and math. Expanding Your Horizons is a hands-on conference for girls in grades 5 through 10. This day-long event includes hands-on activities in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM. At the conference, young women meet female STEM role models and learn more about careers in STEM fields. Because this program is at the Naval Postgraduate School, some of the workshops will focus on cool Navy careers, including careers like oceanography, marine biology, and cryptology. Here's Dave Nichols, the Director of Outreach and Research Communications at the Naval Postgraduate School.
Well, a couple years ago, the Expanding Your Horizons Network decided that they would like to work with the Navy, and they wrote a grant called All Shades of Navy. And the grant was approved by the Office of Naval Research to support several conferences for locations where there hadn't previously been Expanding Your Horizons conferences. NPS was one of those, as was the Naval Academy. And so the connection started there. The theme of the workshop is actually All Shades of Navy, and so what we try to do is have some of our students in uniform encourage the children that come to these that there is a lot that you can do if you're in the services, and it's not just about being a soldier. One of the problems that we have had in education over the past few years has been a decrease in teaching of science and mathematics, and so consequently, not only are girls not taking as many science courses that they might otherwise have taken, especially in elementary and middle school, but all students are getting cut back. Traditionally, girls have been encouraged to go into areas other than science, mathematics, engineering, things like that. And so this is one of the reasons that EYH is very important, because the girls come to these conferences for a day, they have a great time doing hands-on science activities, and they leave here thinking that, yeah, this would be a really fun kind of activity for me to do in school if they don't already do it. They might encourage their teachers to, or their schools to do science activities. Well, the workshops that we're having, for example, one is on underwater robotic vehicles. That one is being presented by the MATE organization, and the kids are going to learn how an underwater vehicle is built, and then they're going to actually take one out to a swimming pool and try to snag some rings in the pool to see how they can work the underwater robotic vehicle. And I have to say, I did this once myself. It was a ball, and I couldn't quit doing it. But the kids are better because they're more ambidextrous than I am.
The keynote speaker at this year's Expanding Your Horizons and STEM conference for young women was Ms. Ann Wasser.
Yeah, I was thrilled to be asked to be a part of this event. I think it's really important for girls to have experiences like this to keep them excited about science when they head into the years where science isn't necessarily cool for girls. This is an opportunity for them to keep engaged and see what they can do past high school and get into the fields, be it science, technology, engineering, or math. They can do all or any of it. And it's exciting to see these opportunities for them and that they're taking advantage of them. The possibilities are endless. If they want to be a biologist, they can be a biologist. If they want to be an engineer, go for it, they can do it. If you want to do math and be a statistician, you can do that. You can work in technology. If you want to get into computer science, the opportunities are endless, the possibilities are endless. It's all based on what they want to do and how hard they're willing to work for it, because there are always opportunities out there, but some are harder to get than others, and if you really want it, you can do it.
Well, we certainly want to thank and salute all the fine young women who took part in Expanding Your Horizons right here at the Naval Postgraduate School, and wish them all the best in their future careers. Well, if you'd like to find out more about the Naval Postgraduate School on social media, here's how. You know, you can get the latest news and information on the Naval Postgraduate School as it happens through the university's official Twitter site. Follow NPS and stay connected, and stay informed at twitter.com/NPS Monterey. The NPS Hall of Fame includes many notable individuals. Here are the latest 2 inductees into the NPS Hall of Fame. Walt Havenstein is the former Chief Executive Officer of SAIC. During his tenure, Mr. Havenstein grew SAIC to an $11 billion Fortune 250 scientific, engineering, and technology application company. He also expanded the company's footprint in commercial health, energy, and environmental markets while maintaining SAIC's leading position in federal and defense sectors. Prior to joining SAIC, he served as Chief Operating Officer and member of the Board of Directors for BAE Systems, a global aerospace and defense company, and as President and Chief Executive Officer of BAE Systems, Inc., the company's wholly owned U.S. subsidiary. Havenstein served on active duty in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1971 to 1983, specializing in tactical communications and systems acquisition management, and completed his career in the Marine Corps Reserve in 1999, retiring as a colonel. He is chairman of the board of directors of FIRST for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, a not-for-profit organization founded to inspire young people's interest and participation in science and technology. Sir, I'm wondering if we could start off by talking a little bit about your career and the relationship you have with NPS.
When I graduated in 1977 from the Naval Postgraduate School, I spent another 6 years on active duty, so a 12-year active duty Marine Corps career, and then went into the defense industry and spent nearly 30 years in the defense industry at various levels. And so, and I would tell you, my work here at NPS was in electrical engineering, and so I tended to work in the electrical engineering and communications side of the defense industry.
Well, being an alumnus of NPS, as you look back over your career, what was your biggest takeaway from the Naval Postgraduate School?
Well, I think there are 2 things. I think the diversity of students that were here when I was here, and I had colleagues in my cohort that were from Israel, from Greece, from Turkey, from Norway. One of my co-workers on our thesis was a lieutenant commander of the German Navy, and so I think that probably was one of the biggest takeaways. I thought about how difficult it was for me to study electrical engineering, and I thought, and I could speak the language the professors were speaking, but it amazed me how much more difficult it must have been for my international colleagues. And they also, taught me their culture, and I got to drink probably a little too much ouzo, and I think that's one of the takeaways. The other takeaway, I think, is what some people would call critical thinking, problem solving. My thesis, which was technically challenging, involving electromagnetic phenomenology and the like, really boiled down to not solving a pure technical problem, but solving a systems engineering and systems management problem. And I didn't realize that until I was very far through my thesis work. And I think that was another huge takeaway, is that oftentimes the problem you're trying to solve will morph, and that you will be faced with a very different problem in the end. And I think you shouldn't be intimidated by that. And it taught me to be, I think, resilient to the nature of problem solving. And so I'd say that was my second big takeaway. Now, I took away from this school our son, who was born while we were here. I took away some great memories of some great friends, and many of those colleagues are still great friends today. So there are many, many takeaways, but I think those 2 from a institutional perspective were the 2 most important for me.
Why do you think NPS stays so relevant with regard to supporting the warfighter and national security efforts?
Well, I think that's why it's relevant. All right, the practical application of solving and considering problems and solving problems that are of national security interest, right, I think is unique to the school. When you think about solving a tough engineering problem, but put it in a context of electronic warfare, or put it in the context of cybersecurity or cyber warfare, or put it in the context of the national security. It's a much different kind of problem. And I think that's the unique aspect of the Naval Postgraduate School. And you get to go then apply that thinking around those unique characteristics that we have and unique requirements in the defense business that I think it makes this special.
Well, congratulations again on being inducted into the NPS Hall of Fame. I'm just wondering, what's your reaction?
Humble and surprised. Shocked, to be frank, when they called and said I was being considered. If you were to take my cohort of classmates in 1977 and line us all up and say, all right, pick one amongst you who in 35 years will be inducted into the Hall of Fame at the Naval Postgraduate School, I can assure you, my name would have never been considered. And so it's funny how life's experiences kind of both influence you and affect you, and how the circumstances for all of us have been changed. And I'm humbled but delighted. My dad went here when it was in Annapolis. In fact, I was born at the Naval Academy Hospital when my dad was attending in aerospace engineering at the Naval Postgraduate School prior to it relocating out here. So this is more than just a homecoming for me. My dad's picture is on one of the buildings over here, and so it's personal. And as I mentioned earlier, my son was born here, so we kind of have a strong attraction and affiliation with the school.
Well, once again, we congratulate you on being appointed to the NPS Hall of Fame and welcome you home. Semper Fi.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a real treat for us.
Our next inductee is retired Admiral Erik Olson. Admiral Erik Olson is the 8th Commander of U.S. Special Operations Command, headquartered at MacDill Air Force Base, Florida. U.S. SOCOM ensures the readiness of Joint Special Operation Forces and, as directed, conducts operations worldwide. A native of Tacoma, Washington, Olson graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1973 and qualified as a Naval Special Warfare SEAL officer in 1974. He has served operationally in an underwater demolition team, SEAL team, SEAL delivery vehicle team, Special Boat Squadron, and at the Naval Special Warfare Development Group. He has commanded at every level. He also earned a Master of Arts degree at National Security Affairs at the Naval Postgraduate School and studied at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey. Well, first of all, Admiral, congratulations on being the newest member into the NPS Hall of Fame. Now, you're an alumnus of NPS, correct?
I am. My time here, I'm a 1985 graduate, but my time here was spread out over more time than most. I'm sort of an accidental student here as it worked out. Between classes at Defense Language Institute, I managed to take some courses here. And over the course of about 3.5 years, was finally assigned here for one solid year at the end, after which I graduated with a degree in National Security Affairs with a focus on Middle East, Africa, and South Asia, and this was in the mid-'80s, so it was before that was as popular a discipline as it is now.
How did your time here at NPS help you in your career path?
Yeah, I think in every way. There was the joint aspect of this, the multi-service. I think in my curriculum at the time I was here, we were much less than half Navy officers, and so it was a good joint exposure for me. It was a good international exposure for me, as we had an international student body here at the time. I think that in terms of specific preparation, my curriculum here prepared me very well for assignments that I had later, embassy assignments and international organization assignments.
Well, I know during your visit you had the opportunity to visit our core lab. I'm just wondering, what were your observations?
Well, I think it's the future of warfare. I think this, from the world that I came from special operations, I think that the special operations community is transitioning from thinking of itself as shooters who can network to networkers who can shoot, and this ability to understand networks in all of their aspects, technical networks, social networks, friendly networks, adversary networks, and be able to apply all of that in a way that makes sense, not just to understand them, but also to be able to predict how networks will behave is enormously important. I'm convinced that that we are going to have to think our way out of conflict more in the future than in the past, and the core program here is very important to that.
Well, finally, sir, I'm just wondering what you're feeling in terms of being inducted into the Hall of Fame here at NPS.
Oh, what a great honor it is. I mean, certainly it's, I'm not sure that I would have been selected as the guy most likely from my class to be inducted into the Hall of Fame here. And I consider myself in many ways sort of an accidental inductee. I mean, I think that the experiences I had here were important in preparing me for what I did later, but of course you can't ever plan for anything like this. You just take every job as it comes, do the best you can in it, and I'm just honored to be here today.
Well, once again, congratulations to our latest 2 inductees into the NPS Hall of Fame. Well, that's it for this edition of Inside NPS right here on the Pentagon Channel. For Monterey, California, I'm your host, Alan Richmond. We'll see you again soon. Take care.